Part 1.
You'll hear a discussion between a salesman and a customer about the items that the customer wants to purchase. First, you have time to look at questions 1 to 4. Listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 4.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
How can I help you?
I'm looking for some formal shirts.
Please come with me. Formal shirts are displayed at counter number 2.
Yes, of course.
May I ask what is the occasion, sir?
Oh, I have to go for a job interview.
That means you need to wear a light-coloured shirt. Checks will look too casual.
Yes, show me something in a solid colour.
Would you prefer regular fit or slim fit?
Well, I usually prefer slim fit, but of late I have put on some weight, so let's go for a regular fit this time.
Certainly, sir, though you don't look overweight to me at all.
Do you like this shirt? It's not bad, but wait, what is this fabric?
It's synthetic, mixed with cotton.
Oh, please show me only those shirts that are 100% cotton. I am allergic to synthetic clothing. Before listening to the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 5 to 10. Now listen and answer questions 5 to 10.
Sure, sir. Now, these other shirts are all pure cotton. The blue one would look very good on you.
I don't mind blue. It's actually my favorite color. But do you have a different shade of blue? Something like a sky blue or a powder blue?
Yes, I certainly do. Please take a look at this shirt here. I think it's just the color you want.
Yes, this looks very good. Can I get this in size 42?
These actually come in 4 sizes, small, medium, large and extra large. Size 42 would be equal to a large size. In fact, why don't you try a large and an extra large both, and see which one fits you better?
Yeah, that sounds good. Can you also tell me how much these cost?
The ones I showed you previously was £25, and this one in your hands is £35.
Oh, why the difference in price?
It's because of the difference in the fabric, sir. While they're both pure cotton, the one in your hands is 2-ply cotton. You can make out the difference in quality yourself when you put the 2 shirts side by side.
Yes, the quality of this one definitely looks better. However, £35 seems a little high. I don't even have a job yet.
Sir, let me talk to my manager and see if we can offer you some discount.
That would be great. If he gives me a good discount, I'll buy both these shirts.
I'll be right back. So, I spoke to my manager, and he has said that if you purchase both the shirts right now, we can offer you a flat discount of 25%.
So, what will be the price of both these shirts after discount?
The total amount of the 2 shirts is £60. After a 25% discount, the final amount you need to pay is £45.
2 shirts for £45 doesn't sound all that bad. I'll take both of them in that case.
All right, sir. I'll pack these for you. Would you like to check out some trousers to go with these shirts?
Well, I don't really need trousers right now.
We have an excellent offer going on right now on trousers. If you buy 2 trousers, you get a 3rd pair completely free of cost. That comes to a discount of about 30%.
33.33% actually. Okay, let's take a look at your trouser section.
This way, sir.
That is the end of part 1.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to Part 2.
Part 2.
You will hear an aquarist talk about how to breed fish in an aquarium. First, you have time to look at questions 11 to 15. Now listen and answer questions 11 to 15. Breeding aquarium fish is one of the steps to becoming a skilled aquarist. Once fish are kept healthy enough to spawn, the novice knows that he can attempt to keep more challenging fish. In order to breed a species, the aquarist usually needs to be able to distinguish between the sexes, and to be able to recreate natural conditions to stimulate spawning. Always make sure to record your successes and failings in a notebook. Determining the sex of a fish is an important step in knowing whether one has a pair. Most fish can be classified as sexually dimorphic or sexually isomorphic. In sexually dimorphic species, the sexes can be easily distinguished by primary and secondary differences. Males are frequently more colorful, larger, and have more elaborate finnage. The more brilliant examples of sexual dimorphism can be found in Lake Malawi cichlids, killifish, and live bearers. In sexually isomorphic species, there are minute, if any, apparent sexual differences. Often the only way to distinguish between the sexes is the shape of the genital papilla, which is only visible around spawning times. In some isomorphic species, the males are slightly larger and the females are slightly rounder in the belly. Some sexually isomorphic species have no known external sexual differences. Once males and females have been distinguished, a suitable pair or spawning group should be chosen. There are several important traits to seek in choosing the parent fish. First, choose fish that display good markings and color. This should produce attractive young. Second, use only mature, healthy fish for spawning, because unhealthy fish, if they spawn, may produce unhealthy or deformed young. Third, be sure that the pair is compatible. Many species cannot be put together in a breeding tank and expected to get along and produce young. In fact, with many cichlids, pairs form only after a group has been raised together for months, if not years. In certain species, one partner will bully the other to death if there is not enough compatibility. Fourth, avoid crossing different strains or color forms because the young are often unattractive. Fifth and last, make sure that the pair are both of the same species because hybrids are sterile. With some cichlids and killifish, females of different species look similar. Before listening to the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 16 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 16 to 20. The majority of aquarium fish are egg layers with external fertilization. Egg layers can be divided into 5 groups: egg scatterers, egg depositors, egg barriers, mouth brooders, and nest builders. Egg scatterers simply scatter their adhesive or non-adhesive eggs to fall to the substrate, into plants, and float to the surface. These species do not look after their brood and even eat their own eggs. These, often schooling fish, may spawn in groups or in pairs. Often there is a large number of the small eggs laid. They fry hatch quickly. Egg depositors deposit their eggs on a substrate. Egg depositors usually lay less eggs than egg scatterers, although the eggs are larger. Egg depositors fall into two groups, those that care for their eggs and those that do not. Among egg depositors that care for their eggs are kitchlids and some catfish. Egg depositors that care for their young can be divided into two groups: cavity spawners and open spawners. Cavity spawners lay their eggs in a cave, while open spawners lay their eggs on an open surface. These fish form pairs and have advanced brood care, where the eggs are defended and cleaned. The eggs take a few days to hatch, and the fry are often guarded by their parents. Various catfish, cyprins, and killifish make up the majority of egg depositors that do not care for their young. These species lays their eggs against a surface where the eggs are abandoned. These species do not usually eat their eggs. Egg barriers usually inhabit waters that dry up at some time of the year. The majority of egg barriers are annual killifish, which lay their eggs in mud. The parents mature very quickly and lay their eggs before dying when the water dries up. The eggs remain in a dormant stage until rains stimulate hatching. Mouth brooders are species that carry their eggs or larvae in their mouth. Mouth brooders can be broken up into ovophiles and larvaphiles. Ovophile or egg-loving mouth brooders lay their eggs in a pit, which are sucked up into the mouth of the female. The small number of large eggs hatch in the mouther's mouth, and the fry remain there for a period of time. Larvophile, or larvae-loving mouth brooders, lay their eggs on a substrate and guard them until the eggs hatch. After hatching, the female picks up the fry and keeps them in her mouth. When the fry can fend for themselves, they are released. Nest builders build some sort of nest for their eggs. The nest is usually in the form of bubble nest, formed with plant debris and saliva-coated bowls, or an excavated pit in the substrate. Nest builders practice brood care. That is, they look after their young.
That is the end of part 2.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 3.
Part 3.
You'll hear an eyewitness describe an accident to a policeman. First, you have time to look at questions 21 to 25. Now listen and answer questions 21 to 25.
So, you saw the accident take place, is it?
Yes, officer, I did.
Can I have your name, please?
It's Susan Guevara.
You'll have to help me with your surname.
It's Guevara. G for Georgia, U for University, I for India, V for Victory, E for Elephant, R for Rodeo, another R, and A.
And your complete address, please.
It's 789 Huntington Drive, Lincoln Park, London.
Can I have your telephone number, please?
Should I give my mobile phone number, or would my landline do?
Either will do, ma'am.
I'll give my landline number in that case. It's 467-889-22.
That's 476-88922.
No, officer, it's 467-88922.
Right, got it. So let's talk about the accident now. What time did the accident take place?
About 30 minutes ago?
It's 11:30 a.m. right now. So let's say the accident took place around 11 a.m.
Yes, that would be correct.
Before listening to the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at question 26 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 26 to 30. Can you describe the car that hit the man?
It was a silver Honda, though I'm not sure which model. I'm not very good with cars.
Did you happen to see the number plate by any chance?
It all happened so quickly that I just got the last few letters. They were 4187.
Did you manage to get a look at the person who was driving the car?
Not a very good look, I'm afraid. The person was wearing a red bandana, though, and black sunglasses.
Can you tell me whether it was a man or a woman?
I think it was a man, but I really can't be 100% sure.
Of course, I understand. Would you be willing to testify in a court? It will be very important for us to get a conviction, since you are the only eyewitness to the accident.
In that case, I'll be happy to testify.
Thank you. I'll keep you posted on the progress of our investigation.
Sure, thank you. Officer, how is the victim? You know, the man who was hit by the car?
He has a fractured leg and a mild concussion, but he'll be all right in a few days.
Oh, that's great.
The end of part 3.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 4.
Part 4.
You will hear an environmental scientist talk about problems with the nitrogen cycle. First, you have time to look at questions 31 to 40. Like the Earth's water, nitrogen compounds cycle through the air, aquatic systems, and soil. But, unlike water, these compounds are being injected into the environment in ever-increasing quantities. In doing so, we are altering the global nitrogen cycle, causing possible grave impacts on biodiversity, global warming, water quality, human health, and even the rate of population growth in developing nations. In a world surrounded by nitrogen, you would think there's always been plenty to go around, and that perhaps a little more wouldn't matter. But having enough of the right kind of nitrogen, reactive nitrogen that has been fixed or converted from the non-reactive form, determines such fundamentals of life as the extent of plant growth, which in turn determines to a large extent the dynamics of the world's food supply. During the 20th century, mankind has produced increasingly more reactive nitrogen, intentionally as fertilizer and unintentionally as a byproduct of combusting fossil fuels. Although carbon dioxide may get more press, the nitrogen cycle has been altered more than any other basic element cycle. And now, experts say, humans are adding more reactive nitrogen to the global nitrogen cycle than all other sources combined. Yet, reactive nitrogen is hardly all bad. The use of nitrogen fertilizer is critical to feeding the world's hungry. The question is, then, how do we manage nitrogen responsibly?
If any aspect of nitrogen pollution has a high public and policy profile, it's the effects of excess nutrients on bodies of water, especially in coastal areas. Because of its high solubility, nitrate quickly escapes down below the root zone of an agricultural field or forest and into groundwater, which makes it difficult and expensive to control. Reactive nitrogen, whether from animal raising facilities, manufactured fertilizer, septic systems or other sources, has raised nitrate concentrations in the waterways of most industrialized nations. In Norway, nitrate concentrations in 1,000 lakes doubled in less than a decade. Nitrate concentrations in rivers in the northeastern United States and in much of Europe have increased 10 to 15-fold in the last 100 years. Where nitrate loading to bays and coastal zones increases, it can provide such a steady source of nutrients that algae bloom uncontrollably. When the algae die, they sink and decompose, which draws oxygen from the water. If too much oxygen is removed, the water body develops a dead zone, an area that can no longer support finfish, shellfish, or most other aquatic life. Perhaps the best-known dead zone is that found in the Gulf of Mexico, which is fed by the nitrate-rich Mississippi River and fluctuates in size from 3,000 to 8,000 square miles. There are also oxygen-starved areas in the Baltic Sea, the Adriatic Sea, the Gulf of Thailand, the Yellow Sea, and the Chesapeake Bay. Reactive nitrogen can also infiltrate drinking water, as nitrates from nitrogen fertilizers and runoff from livestock find their way into streams, rivers, lakes, and groundwater. In the United States, as much as 20% of groundwater sources may exceed the US and World Health Organization limits of 10 parts per million for nitrates. This concentration is also exceeded in many other parts of the world. High concentrations of nitrates can cause methemoglobinemia, or blue baby disease, in infants. In blue baby disease, nitrate ions weaken the blood's capacity to carry oxygen. Epidemiological studies have also linked nitrates to reproductive problems and some cancers, including increased risk for bladder and ovarian cancers at concentrations below 10 parts per million. As with water and air, reactive nitrogen builds up in soil. There's a limit, however, to how much nitrogen plants can use. When soil reaches a point at which plants can't use additional nitrogen, it's said to be saturated. And saturated soil, in theory at least, will shed any additional nitrogen introduced to it. But that nitrogen doesn't leave unaccompanied. When it leaches out of the system, it takes other nutrients with it, so it ends up acidifying the soil, and it takes things like magnesium and calcium out into the water. As a result, you end up with a very unbalanced system. If it's true that saturated soil immediately passes additional nitrogen rather than denitrifying it, that could be bad news for the near future, with all that excess nitrogen flowing straight to groundwater, rivers, streams, and seas. However, we have a very poor understanding of what is actually happening. If the nitrogen is accumulating in soil, it could be a temporary phenomenon until it saturates the ability to store it. Then we have a much bigger problem. On the other hand, if it is being denitrified, that's more of a steady-state process, and it can probably continue to do so. Although more reactive nitrogen means more growth, it also changes which species in an ecosystem thrive. For example, in grasslands that received increased nitrogen, the species composition changed to plants that had litter that decomposed more quickly. And because it decomposed more quickly, there was actually no net storage of carbon with added nitrogen. Some scientists had hoped that excess reactive nitrogen levels might actually reduce greenhouse gases by stimulating plant growth, which locks up carbon dioxide. but it doesn't seem likely that it's going to play a dominant role. Although the jury is still out, there isn't very good evidence that nitrogen deposition actually does lead to increased carbon removal and storage.
That is the end of part 4.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.